Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. Well, my traveling days in China are over for a while. Guangxi Autonomous Region, and actually every province and autonomous region around China has been travel has been suspended. Let's just say it that way. Travel has been suspended unless it's an emergency or very necessary, like truck drivers and whatever. Why is that? Because COVID has reared its ugly head again in China. And it's basically in a lot of different places. I think they were talking up to 30 cities and 15 or 17 different provinces and autonomous regions. So to leave Guangxi, you need a pass. You need a reason to leave. So, and that's not it. That's not all of it. I've been able to get one COVID shot, but not two. It seems like in Guangxi, I think it's different in a lot of different places around China, but in Guangxi, and I've talked to a lot of the older boys, and I know just about every one of them here in Nanning. A lot of the older boys are saying that, yeah, I've got one shot, but I haven't been able to get the other shot. And it's sort of disturbing because I don't want to be traveling around China if there's COVID out there and not be fully vaccinated. You know what I mean? So if you're one of these government people that can make it happen, that Gweilo can get his second shot, and all of the other old boys in Nanning or Guangxi Autonomous Region can get their other shots, maybe call me, guy, you know, or girl, and we can work something out. Anyway, as always, that is not what this video is about. You see all of the rhetoric in the Western world, governments, media, mainstream media, YouTubers, all of these people that know better than the Chinese government. And they tell you about what's going on in Xinjiang, and they tell you what's going on in Hong Kong. They tell you what's going on in Mongolia. They tell you what's going on in Tibet. They tell you all of the bad things that are happening. Okay, let's rewind this. Let's start with Hong Kong. Okay, you've got sort of a democracy movement in Hong Kong that got out of hand. People were being killed, being burnt alive. People were being bricked to death. Airports were being shut down. Subways were being vandalized. People couldn't go to work. People couldn't do anything in Hong Kong and feel safe for like 9 months. Okay. And as soon as China brought in a security law that made this illegal, because before that they really didn't have a law in Hong Kong that said this is illegal. Okay, so as soon as they brought in this law, the rest of the world went freaking nuts. They said, "How dare you? How dare you?" It sounded like that Swedish girl, whatever her name is, I can't, Greta. Oh my God, how dare you? And they started pointing their finger at Hong Kong. Okay, but I got to thinking, I thought, well, what would the Western world, what would the United States do if there was 9 months of riots and there was killings and there was maiming people, because the guy that they burned didn't die. At least I don't think he's dead yet. But he had, well, it was gory. But what would the United States do? So let's go look back in their history and see what they did. Let's go back to the Vietnam War. Maybe the riots, the Rodney King riots. Maybe we'll go, but you see, the Vietnam War, let's go there. Would they call out the National Guard on their own citizens after a couple days? Well, yes, they would. Let's go back to Ohio State University in 1971, where the National Guard opened fire on students on campus grounds and killed 4 kids. Okay, what about the Rodney King riots? If the United States had riots and demonstrations on the streets of a city like the size of Los Angeles, because I think LA and Hong Kong are basically the same number of people. I could be wrong, but it really doesn't matter. I'm wrong lots of times. Remember the video I made where I called Nathan Rich shit because he outed Serpent Winston, Winnie the Pooh, and oh, you can say that in China, but and I said that Nathan was wrong, so I can be wrong too. But the idea that the Western world, what would they do if they were put in the same situation? 9 months of riots, 9 months of demonstrations, sit-ins in airports, wrecking subways, blockades on the streets so people can't go to work. What would the United States do? Think about that. Okay, now let's go into enough of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is, would they put these people in jail? January the 6th comes to mind. You know what I mean? 550 people have been arrested. One guy is a felony, going to jail for 9 months, and that felony is going to be on his record for the rest of his life. Actually, four police officers that showed up on January 6th dealing with sedition and everything that was going on that day have committed suicide. It doesn't sound right, but anyway, but the idea is people died there. People were shot. People were killed. Did that happen in Hong Kong? How many of these protesters died? Some are going to jail. Oh, definitely, because they broke the law. Okay, now let's get on to Xinjiang. You've got a country of 1.4 billion people. You've got a province, autonomous region, but province for people that don't know what an autonomous region is. I've been educated, but the idea is that predominantly a very poor place in mainland China over the last number of decades. Basically undereducated, not a lot of opportunity in that area of mainland China up to today. Terrorist attacks. I won't say cult, but religious radicals trying to change the government in that area. Stabbings, bombings, machete attacks in bus stations in like Kunming, but all because of basically religious fanatics, jihadists that were easily found in a very poor and educated area of mainland China. Okay, and what did China do about that? Well, education camps. Well, we can call them education institutions like we would in the West, but education camps, if you want to go by the Western rhetoric, okay, let's call them camps. To teach the people of this area trade skills so that they can take care of themselves, their families, and make a better life for their families in the future. Okay, what did they do to the terrorists that they caught? They threw them in jail, and I'm sure they offed some of them too, because that's just the way they roll here in China. If you kill somebody, they'll probably kill you. It's it's the way it is. What would they have done in the West? What would they have done in the United States? 9/11 comes to mind. Osama bin Laden, they just killed him. Timothy McVeigh, hey, you know what I mean? Timothy McVeigh had his ideology also. He very complicated character. But what happened to Manuel Noriega from Panama? What about Saddam Hussein? What about all of these people that the United States figured was helping the jihadists of the world, helping the terrorists of the world, because that's exactly what China was dealing with in Xinjiang Autonomous Region, was terrorism. And they've dealt with it to the point where they haven't had any terrorist attacks since 2017. Hope that keeps up. But what they did is they decided that they would try to make the lives of these people better through bringing economics to the area. They're bringing water from the mountains and irrigating, making desert and farmland. They're bringing jobs. They're bringing industry. They're educating the people to work in these industries and to make a wage and to have a better life. In doing that, the education helps them understand what's right and what's wrong. Better educational institutions for the children. So when the children go to school, they come home and they're better educated than their parents are. All of these things. So see how China has sort of attacked this problem from a different direction. They've attacked it from educating the people, making their lives better. If their lives are better, they're less likely to be able to be indoctrinated by these radical religious cults, whatever. And I think that's a really good way to do it. And what did the United States do? Well, they attacked Iraq. They went into Afghanistan. They started wars. They killed people. They displaced millions of people. They took the other approach. They didn't try to educate people. They didn't try to help people. They didn't try to do anything for anybody but themselves. What they did is they basically tried to use force, military power, to change the rulers in that area to somebody that they figured could make that area of the world more like them. Okay, so, well, that's good. You get into a place like Mongolia, where they have these demonstrations and whatever, and I think they still have them today, where they changed their curriculum. A lot of ethnic schools were teaching the Mongolian language, the languages of the area in the past. And the Chinese government said, well, no, you got to be teaching Mandarin. If you're not teaching Mandarin language to the people, how are they going to compete in this world of ours? How are they going to get jobs? How are they going? If they can't speak the language, what the fuck are they going to do? You know what I mean? And so a lot of these people got pissed off, and they said, you're trying to... cultural genocide comes to mind. You're trying to take our culture away from us. And they got pissed off about that. Well, really, the Chinese government isn't trying to do that. Okay, now let's back up all the way back again and go back into the Hong Kong thing and say, what would Los Angeles do? What would the federal government do if Los Angeles had a movement of, say, 200,000 people that demonstrated on a daily basis, that threw gas on people and burned them, threw bricks at people and killed them, was wrecking subways, was stopping airports from doing anything, was just stopping traffic, people couldn't go to work, anything like that. What would Los Angeles... Oh, and these people wanted to change the government of their city. Hong Kong is a city in China. Their city, God forbid, to be communist. We want that type of government. We don't want the democratic type of government. We want the communist government. Okay, what would the rest of California do? What would what would the federal government of the United States of America do in a circumstance like that? Then you got to look at it that China put up with this for 9 months. And the British say, well, we had a deal for 50 years that you weren't going to change anything. Well, you got to go back 100 years before that, buddy, and figure out that the only reason the British are in there is because they sold opium. They had a war with China, took Hong Kong away from China because China wasn't strong enough to keep it at that particular time, and occupied it and used it as their own. Now that China's big and can sort of flip their finger at the British little island there, oh, well, you did this and you did that. Well, yeah, but, you know, look back and why is it like this today? You know what I mean? So think about that. When it's okay for Los Angeles City to form its own government, communist government, and be a communist state inside the United States, well, then maybe it's okay for Hong Kong to be a democratic state inside of China. It's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, guys. You know what I mean. So then the same thing with Xinjiang Autonomous Region. You've got, say, let's pick on Texas because, hey, Texas is easy to pick on. Say Texas wanted to have their own government. They wanted to be the same as a bordering country like Mexico. You got Turkestan, and everybody's talking about East Turkestan and all this other shit. And so what if Texas, which used to be Mexico, wanted to be Mexico once again? And they started bombing places, like they did in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and places like that. What if they started stabbing people? What if they started a terrorist operation that threw Texas into a police state? Because to counter that in a place like Xinjiang or Texas, you need a lot of police to help govern, to help keep law and order, to help people feel safe in that area if those things are happening. And so again, I say, well, if it's okay for Texas to become, oh, there's fish in here. If it's okay for Texas to become Mexico, North Mexico, let's call it North Mexico, and flip its finger to the United States and say, oh, but we're not just going to be Mexico, we're going to be communist Mexico. You know what I mean? Oh, could you see what goes on in the United States? What would they do? Would they allow that? Probably not. Would they throw the National Guard in there? Definitely. Would they throw the military in there? Probably. You know, and that's just it. When all of these people are pointing fingers at China saying, well, you're doing this to these people, well, there's always a reason why this is happening. It's not just a one-sided thing. Is China doing all of the right things? Probably not. Are the people that on the other side in Hong Kong and Xinjiang and Mongolia doing the right thing? Probably not. Is there a way to make it actually work? Well, I think it is working. I think it's getting better in Hong Kong. I think I know it's getting better in Xinjiang because people are more educated. There's less terrorism. There's more economy going on. There's more jobs. There's more industry in that area. In Mongolia, the children are learning the language of the country so that they can compete. They can go to university. They have more options in their future life. So I think it's working. I think it's a great thing. So you have to ask yourself, if you were in China's position and you had all of these, because China's pretty big and 1.4 billion people, if you were in China's position, what would you do? If you have a better idea of how to deal with all of these problems, and these are just some of the problems here in China, if you had any idea how to deal with these problems, well, maybe you should call somebody up and tell them, well, you should do this or you should do that. But it doesn't include calling out the National Guard. It doesn't include calling out the American military. It doesn't include throwing millions of people in jail like they do in the United States. They have the highest incarceration rate in the world per capita. You know, so see, it's one of those things that I sit back, because I've been living in China for a long time, and I sit back and I watch this stuff and I think to myself, okay, well, all of these people are saying, oh, this is so bad, but they're not giving any solutions. They're pointing fingers, but there's no solution to the problem. What would they do? They don't know. They're beacon off. I saw the thing on Facebook the other day from a friend of mine in Prince Albert, and the idea of, yeah, keep talking means shut the fuck up or you got problems. Well, that's basically what I'm saying here, is if you don't bring anything to the table, if you don't bring solutions, you only point fingers and tell people what they're doing wrong, what good are you doing? Are you helping anybody? Absolutely not. Are you hindering the world as it is? Are you trying to put a wedge between the people of the West and the people of the East? Are you just inciting these riots? Are you inciting violence? Are you inciting racism against the people of China? I think you probably are, and it's not doing anybody any good. So when the rubber hits the road, guys, you have to ask yourself, when it's frickin' 37 degrees outside here today, I am just sweating, but when the rubber hits the road and you have to ask yourself, if I was in charge of that country, if I was in charge of this situation, what would I do? What would be the best thing for the people of that area of the world? And in Xinjiang, the Communist Party of China said, education, build the economy, make their lives better. If they make their lives better, then they're less likely to be pissed off and pick up a bomb, a gun, a knife, a machete. And I think it's working. In Hong Kong, what's the best way to deal with this? Bring in a law so it's illegal, and people are just not allowed to do this, or they're going to go to jail. So people don't do it, or they know they're going to go to jail because people are going to jail right now. They're, you know, the trials are on. People are, I think the last guy got 9 years or something like that. So be it. But if you have those deterrents, like any other place, if there's a penalty, well, and you know that there's a penalty, you're less likely to do that, and the people of that city, Hong Kong, are safer. So I think the Chinese have a good grasp on what they're doing, and I think they're doing a great job. I look what's going on in the West, and I think, no, they're not doing such a good job, and they haven't in the past, but they are very good at pointing fingers at the other guy. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60 here in Nanning, China. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to resubscribe, and whatever you do, don't forget to put a couple bucks in the children's Patreon account. It's for a good cause. Thanks for watching. Bye now.